support through CCDF, it encourages me to like lean into my Métis heritage, and it makes me feel empowered as a woman to be in this industry. And this is a man's industry, so to be here, we're a woman butcher shop, and that's something that doesn't happen very often either. So I feel really empowered by them. My name is Kylie McGregor, and I'm a proud Métis entrepreneur. I own Big Bob's Meats Midale in southern Saskatchewan. I'm carrying on the legacy of my papa and following in the footsteps of my dad. I'm proud to be a member of this community. So my papa, his name is Robert, but everybody knew him as Big Bob. He was a butcher, he made sausage. He kind of started all of this. My dad had worked with him, alongside him, for his whole lifetime. And when my dad was 18, he moved down to Regina and started his own branch of Big Bob's. My dad took my papa's business and built on it, and like he made it into what it is today. And the success, I think, of it is, it belongs to my dad. He built this big empire. In my eyes, I think of it as like his empire, you know? I think our family is really good on carrying on his legacy through the memories of him. And I think my dad's business as a whole really carries on his legacy. It has like his sausage recipes, and there's customers that they'll come into my dad's store and say, I used to buy sausage from your dad in Prince Albert. And there's people that come into my store and they say, I used to buy sausage from your papa in Prince Albert. That's what I wanted for myself too. Like, it makes you proud when somebody comes in, and like somebody that I didn't really know that well as a 3-year-old, right? But I feel like really connected to him through our business and through our food. The animals always came first. I always had to go out and feed my bottle calf before I had my lunch, you know? And my dad really instilled that in me, and I think that's really important in this industry, is taking care of animals from the day they're born till their very last day. I think that should be important to people too in the food that they're consuming. Knowing that like animal welfare was at the forefront of the business that you're supporting, right? That's really important to me, and I think that consumers really should consider those things when it comes to animal husbandry and knowing where your food comes from. Being an Indigenous person, they're so closely connected to the bison, and that is something that I carry with me. It's probably not something that anybody really thinks of, right? When they're eating a steak, is like, what was this animal's life before that? But for me, it's important to know it wasn't on a truck for 12 hours to a big slaughter plant, or knowing that my neighbor was the one who raised it, and I know that he's a good person and that his animals are well cared for. A lot of that came from my upbringing, from my parents and my family, but also through working with other Indigenous communities as well. It's just the value of a life. I really needed my mom and dad sometimes, but they had their own stuff going on, so I just kind of had to figure out my own way. And I think that was in some ways just a blessing, because I was used to leaning on them and like not trusting my own judgment. At the beginning, I would have never imagined I would be the full-time meat cutter, and it's just, there's no other butcher here. Like, I'm the butcher. This is a meat shop. I have to be the butcher. And I wasn't the meat cutter in my original game plan, but here I am. Like, I always cut meat with my dad and my uncles and stuff at his shop, but I didn't have to do it by myself. And that's kind of when I realized that that's entrepreneurship. My connection with CCDF started when I applied for my Métis status. I started looking through different grants and that kind of stuff on their website, being able to access the zero interest loan and then the grant. I wouldn't have been able to start my business as soon as I did after mat leave. So they were definitely a huge help in being able to start my business when I felt that I was ready to start my business. It's just nice to have people in your corner and people that want you to succeed. And felt that throughout my whole time dealing with them. Yeah, it was always like I was being empowered. They helped me purchase all of this stuff around me, right? Almost everything I used the grant for. So I wouldn't have half of this stuff in here without them. Those costs are like huge. So for them to cover some of that, or just for that to be an interest-free loan for another portion of it, you're not just giving money out to a bank for the interest, right? Starting from ground zero is hard, but it's a little bit easier when there's knowledgeable people behind you. And the business plan was one of those key things that they made sure that this business was going to be viable. They want people to succeed, and they want to make sure that they have the tools to do that. And yeah, they gave me those tools. I feel like other institutions are just kind of like a fill out this thing, you figure it out on your own, and it's a yes or a no at the end. It's a little bit easier to take that leap and start the ball rolling on becoming an entrepreneur with having people like CCDF behind you. You don't just have your 9-to-5 as an entrepreneur. It's always on your mind what needs to be done, what went wrong that day, all of those things. There's a lot of sacrifices, but you also get a lot of recognition too, right? Through your community, and you get the opportunity to provide for other people. And I go back to different scenarios I know throughout my lifetime with my dad as a business owner. One of our hardest lessons was pretty recent in being my dad's fire. If you don't give up after your whole business burns to the ground and your whole life's work burns to the ground, if you don't give up, like, devastating doesn't even like begin to cover how devastating it was, you know, like that's the only word I can use. My dad is both of our heroes, so I think it's important to carry it on for him and like my papa's legacy. But to me, just growing up knowing my dad as a business owner, I think he's the hardest working person you'll ever meet. He isn't just an owner of Big Bob's. He has his hand in a number of different things, but he's worked for absolutely everything he has, and I think he's really instilled that in us girls, his work ethic and how important that is. My mom is the same way. Like, she's an incredibly hard worker, and she built her own career outside of the shop, but as a family business, it's all of us, right? It takes all of us together. My girls are in here often with us if it's, you know, not during the work day. Sometimes they're here, like yesterday they were here at the end of the work day because stuff happens. I had to go grab them, and they're with us every day out feeding the animals and doing all of that kind of stuff too. So I think that's just how my dad instilled it in us. It wasn't anything that was forced, right? It was just being with him day after day, doing different things with him. We were out there feeding the animals or processing animals or, you know, cleaning the barn. Like, I think that's what I want for my girls, is to be able to take them with me and learn. I think every parent hopes that their kids are the better version of them, right? So I hope they take my good values and they run with that and they grow on that too.